Welcome back to IAS Net Study. This is the ethics series, and we were discussing sixth unit, ethics in public administration. In the last video, we were talking about accountability and governance. Now let's move ahead and let's take one more topic that is mentioned in your syllabus: ethics in international relations. So the basic question here is that why do we need ethics in international relations? Once we understand that, we can build concept based on this understanding. The question is why. See, the if you look at the ethics at the personal level, at interpersonal level, if I have some positive attributes and if I showcase that positive attributes in with my conversation with you or my behavior with you, you are also going to showcase some kind of positive attributes towards me. I am going to respect you, you are also going to respect me. If these kind of healthy relationships are there in community, then there will be Welcome back to IAS Net Study. This is the ethics series and this is the 41st video in the ethics series. In the last video, we talked about accountability and governance. Let's move ahead. Let's take the one more topic that is mentioned in your syllabus. The topic is ethics in international relations. So let's get into the discussion of this topic. Before entering into the topic, let's understand what is the necessity of ethics in international relationship. If we understand that, then we can build the concept based on this understanding. Now the question is, why do we need it? See, just like we have these ethical values, moral values in our interpersonal personal life, the same thing, even we have that in personal life, we have that in professional life. The same thing, the ethical consideration, ethical values, moral values are required for international relationships also. uh, if I have positive attributes, if I inculcate these ethical values in my conduct, people are going to respect me, I am going to respect the people. So this enhance the social coordination, and this is going to enhance the social cohesion. In a similar way, if a country inculcates these value and if a country showcases these values in its conduct, again it is going to be respected by another country. So similar, whatever at personal level I am experiencing social conduct that or the social cohesion, the same thing can be expected at the international level also. So for that reason, we need ethics in international relationship. See, we have certain problem, just like interpersonal relationship we have issues, even at international level also we have different set of problems between one country to another country. So in order to sort out these problems, in order to sort out these conflicts, we need ethics. Now let's list out the problems, list out the conflicts we have at international level, then we are going to connect this topic to the ethical values. So what are the general problems we see between two countries? There will be border issues, there will be river water sharing issue, and there will be trade related aspect, imports and export trade related aspect, you can say economy, and there will be issue of migration, refugees, and respecting international laws, and there will be issue of religion, differences of ideologies. Some countries are communist countries, some countries support the idea of the capitalism. Even these kind of tussle, it is also going to create some level of conflict. And historical mistakes also going to manifest as conflicts or problems between different countries. See, these are some of the conflicts we see between one country to another country. These conflicts, these, there are genuine real time problems are there between one country to another countries. Now how do you solve these kind of conflicts, these kind of escalation, these kind of problems? Through values, through ethical values, through moral values. So if countries inculcate these values, whatever we studied in third unit, those values, if the countries inculcate these values, again we can eliminate these conflicts, we can ensure coordination, we can ensure cooperation, right? For coordination and cooperation, we need ethics. So this is basic understanding. Now let's see the role of morality in international relationship. What is the importance of morality and what exactly morality is going to play in international relationship. Morality, it influence international relationship. Usually, see, if there are small misunderstanding, it can be eliminated through coordination and cooperation. If we could not able to handle small things, then it will lead to a bigger conflict, it will lead to a bigger escalation, and it will even lead to the situation of war. We can avoid these war. You have seen that world war started from very small misunderstanding and escalation. Down the line, they have become very big, and groups have been created by few of the countries creating one group, and another few of the countries creating another group, and it led to the world war. The initial misunderstandings could be eliminated if countries had followed these moral values in their conduct. If countries considered ethical consideration in their conduct, we could have eliminated all these world wars. So for whatever the conflict, initial conflicts, this can be eliminated through coordination and cooperation. So here the role of morality comes into the picture. See, ethical limits on warfare are reflected in international humanitarian law. See, if you talk about humanitarian law, international United Nations charters, all these things, they all talk about elimination of injustice. They enhance or they uphold peace, harmony, justice. All these aspects are dealt by humanitarian law. And where, what is the core philosophy behind all these humanitarian law, all these United Nations charter, everything? It is positive attributes. They are nothing but ethical values. So these ethical values, they are going to limit the these kind of confrontation, these kind of escalation. And by following international humanitarian law, by following just war theory, just war doctrine, these are some of the philosophies. By following that, see, these are nothing but values only, moral values only. By following morality, again, we can limit the warfare, we can limit the conflicts. And therefore, even in hostile situation, states are expected to make moral choices. See, even at the nth time period also, if you make a moral choices, you can still eliminate these kind of conflicts and confrontation. So role of morality, role of value, it's very important in international relationship. And then ethics in international decision making. So you have to make a decision at that point of time, how exactly ethics is going to influence the decision making, and what should be the criteria. So that is mentioned here. At a minimum, international decision making should identify and consider relevant values. What are the values? Justice, the international relationship should be based on the values of justice. It should be based on the value of peace, value of human rights, and ethical concerns should be there. So international important decisions should consider these aspects also while taking decisions. And ethical reasoning, another aspect. You should keep these terminologies in your mind. It comes in handy to answer the questions in examination. So ethical reasoning helps makers assess not just what is strategically benefit, but also what is right and legitimate. See, usually what happens, countries think about their personal benefits. Most of the countries, they work in that manner. See, nobody is telling that this is something wrong to focus on what benefits you, this is fine, but at the same time, don't compromise with values. Of course, every country want to be a developed nation, every country want to have very strong economic and social development, infrastructure, everything. That development is, we all need it, but at the same time, in that process of development, in that road of development, don't ignore values. So along with development, ethical reasoning is also very much important. So the ethics in international decision making, this ensures there will be a win-win situation between countries. So this is ethics in international decision making. Then now see the, let's see the challenges in ethical consensus. What are the challenges to include or to inculcate these ethical values in the conduct? The international system lacks a strong consensus on moral values. In the last slide also we talked about, usually countries think on their own self-interest. See, when you thinking on your own self-interest, you think on your survival first. So there, these values take a back step. So this has become a very big challenge to the ethical reasoning in the international relationship. So now we need some kind of strong consensus for moral values. That should be the primary criteria rather than anything else. So now states have a different culture, different ideologies, different political system. Beyond all these things, we can come at one place with respect to these ethical values. And international institution, usually if you look at it, they are weak and compared to the domestic governments. See, we have now take an example of WTO. Now so many countries have complained against another country for unfair trade practices, but WTO is not even taking any action, because even for WTO, it works on financial donations, and fundings usually come from the developed nations. If any of the judgments or any of the orders given by WTO is not uh, if USA, usually USA is a biggest donor, and WTO has given some order, and USA is not happy about this particular order. Now USA, what exactly it is doing is, it is not giving these fundings, it is not releasing these funds to the WTO. Without fund, WTO cannot run. Now the international institutions are getting weaker and weaker. This is another challenge. The first challenge is that different ideologies, different political system, and the different culture, this is also creating some kind of challenge. This is first challenge. And second challenge is international institutions itself, they are getting weaker and weaker. These kind of international institution charters, laws, they make sure implementation of these ethical values and these ethical consensus. When they are getting weaker, it poses the question mark on ethical nature of the world order. And there is no central global authority to enforce moral or legal norms strictly. That is another reason, because since there is no funding, there is no power and authority. We don't have, even though we have United Nations and all these things, but still when it comes to the ethical aspects, there is no central authority to ensure ethical conduct. So these are important challenges. We need strong consensus of moral values, but because of these reasons, because of different cultures, ideology, different political systems, we could not able to get that ethical consensus. Because of weak international institutions, we could not able to go for ethical consensus, because we don't have a strong global authority to enforce moral norms. We don't have ethical consensus, so these have become a challenges to the ethical consensus. Now, ethics beyond conflict, I told you that in the beginning of the slide also, these are the problems. And this eventually leads to the conflict. How do you eliminate this conflict? Through coordination and cooperation. So, ethics beyond conflict, how do you deal with this conflict? Through the cooperation. A large part of international relationship is not about conflict but cooperation, and this cooperation, it deals with bilateral diplomacy. This cooperation, it mainly depends on international organization, the support they get from these kind of international organization, or the accountability factors on these international organization, and international laws, treaties, and the customs. So here, in order to build cooperation, we need ethical bilateral diplomatic channels, or diplomatic way of conducting things. We need strong ethical international organization, and we need strong international laws, treaties that are based on these moral values. These cooperative frameworks are based on trust, fairness, reciprocity. Again, it has to be based on trust, fairness, reciprocity. These are all moral values. So every cooperative frameworks or coordinative frameworks, it has to be based on moral values, respect for rules. So all of which have ethical foundation. So in order to get rid of conflict, we need cooperation, we need coordination. How do you get this coordination? Through these steps, right? Now, let's see, there are two major theories are there with respect to international relationship. And these, if you understand these theories, then it will help you how exactly you can integrate or inculcate ethical values, moral values in the international relationship. The first theory is that realism. There are two, one is realism, another one is liberalism. Realism, I will tell you in a simple way what exactly realism is. That realism here, it deals with the self-interest of a country. It says that the first priority should be given to the self-interest. Self-interest is that, I am a Prime Minister of India. My priority is self-interest of India. What is positive for India, I am going to select that. What gives security to India, what gives any economic benefit to India, what gives social benefit to India, I am going to deal that. How do you make all these things, development, all these things? Through the military power, I can say power. So realism works on the self-interest of a country, and realism focuses on military might or the power of the country. Here it says that morality is not required. especially for a leader. Morality, it is fine for the people, but not for the leader. Leaders should have the authority, leaders should have the power. See, whatever you have learned in the Machiavelli, you can connect it here. Realism is a theory where it says that survival of a nation is important. And how do you survive? By focusing on your self interest. You have to focus on your self interest. How do you ensure your self interest? Through the military power, military might, or the power or authority you have. See, when you have power, when you are militarily strong, it means that no, you, it does not look like very weak country. No other country is going to attack you, and you can, even if somebody attacks you, you can defend it, you can protect the people of your country. So realism, this is how the international relationship, if every country follows this, there will not be any kind of conflict between one country to another, because I have the power. Some other country, if they want to attack me, they will think 10 times that this country has a military, all these military equipments, it has that, all these military might is there, it is powerful country, so it is not going to attack it. So this is in turn, by protecting me, by strengthening me, I can avoid some kind of confrontation, some kind of conflict. So this is one theory. So realism urges that international system is anarchic. There is no central authority. Anarchy, it means that some kind of chaos are there. So therefore, states act primarily to ensure their own survival. I have to think of, I am a prime minister of India, so I have to think of protection or survival of my country. So how do you do it? By increasing the power compared to other countries. See, I have issues with Pakistan, I have issues with Bangladesh. Now I want to protect myself. How can I protect myself? I have to be stronger than Pakistan and Bangladesh, then only I can protect myself. So here, realism works, ensure the it focuses on the survival of the country, it focuses on the self-interest of the country. So how do you protect the self-interest and how do you ensure the survival? By increasing the power. When you compare to other countries, I have to be more powerful. So this is one thing. And what are some of the assumptions are there in the realism, this particular theory? The first is, primary goal of every state is self-preservation. I have to preserve my country. That is the primary goal. Moral values, these are all not needed. Primary objective is that I have to protect my country, self-preservation. And power, especially military power, is the key means for the survival. Realism mainly it focuses on this aspect. Military power is the key means to ensure survival. There is no global authority to enforce law or punish wrongdoing. There is no global authority. It is my responsibility to protect my own country. If you think that some other country will going to come and protect you, no, this is not going to happen. You have to protect your own country. This is what realism talks about. Moral behavior in foreign policy is risky because it may weaken a state. See, it is saying yes to military power, no to morality. It is saying morality is not required, especially in the foreign policy. What is the point of having all these moral values and all? It is, in turn, this is risky. When you start following all these moral values, ethical consideration, in turn this is going to make your country weaker. So this is the assumptions. And then war and conflict are natural and unavoidable in an international setup. War and this conflict, it comes no matter what, it is going to happen. So you should be prepared in a position. You should have that strong military. You should have that power to protect yourself. And international laws and international organizations have no independent power. They function only when powerful status allows them to. Again, if you look at the United Nations, it is controlled by especially G7 countries, very predominantly the veto countries with veto power, and the countries who give the major donation. So here, these countries can manipulate the international institution. These five countries, they can manipulate the United Nations. See, this is what realism is talking about. Be real. Think. Focus on your survival. How do you survive? By consolidating power, by having a strong country, by having a strong military. This is what realism is talking about. This is the first theory with respect to international relationship. And let's talk about the next. Again, next is liberalism, but there are some points have been mentioned here. The same thing. Morality subordinate to national interest. This is what we talked about now. Morality, power comes first, then comes morality. And leader may be personally moral, but they cannot afford to act morally if it threatens the national security. National security comes first, then morality comes. You can be moral, I can be moral in my personal conduct, but as a prime minister, my obligation is to protect my country, give my national security, give security to my country. So morality below, power above. This is realism. So power down, morality. So this is realism, and you can connect with the Machiavelli. Machiavelli also talks about the same thing. Machiavelli also talks about the same thing, that the leader, he talks about a skillful immorality. He also tells that these morals and all, these are for the people, not for the ruling elite. So he told that if you are giving stability and security to your country, then it is ethical. So this is his point of view, and realism also talks about it. You can connect with Machiavelli. That even in turn you can connect with Kautilya also, even though he does not directly talks about it, but some of the points you can relate it to. Now this is with respect to realism. And the second theory, liberalism. What is liberalism? Liberalism, here also, there also it says that survival is important, word is dangerous. Here also it says that word is dangerous. But here liberalism talks about you can eliminate these dangers, you can eliminate these conflicts through the cooperation. There it talks about power, here it talks about cooperation, and this cooperation, this create win-win situation. See, usually when you go to a war, there will be a destruction on both the sides. But here, if you stick on to this cooperation, there will be beneficial. Your economy of your country is also going to get bigger. Economy of my country is also going to get bigger. So you are also going to grow. I am also going to grow. So it is win-win situation. So liberalism talks about cooperation. Liberalism talks about coordination, rather than conflict, rather than confrontation, rather than military power. See, here, there it is the military power, and here they say that rather than military power, there is one more aspect we are ignoring. What is that one more aspect? Economic and social development. Let's focus on economic and social aspect, developmental aspects. And how do you ensure economic and social developmental aspect? When there is a peace, when there is peace in your country, then you are going to get some investments, all these things, and economy will be booming. And how do you get this peace? Through the cooperation. See, war or the confrontation, it is going to lead to some level of destructions. It is going to impact the development. But cooperation, again, it helps to remove the conflict. It helps you to grow. It helps me to grow. So this is the idea of liberalism here. And again, let's see the assumptions with respect to liberalism. Military power is not the only form of power. We have economic, we have social, we have institutional power. These powers are also very much crucial, and liberalism talks about focus on these rules, rather these powers, rather than military power. States have diverse interests, not only the security. Realism only talks about security. You give the security and stability, automatically everything will be fine. But here it says that states, it is beyond security. Security is not only the concern, there are diverse interests are there, and cooperation can increase mutual benefits and reduce conflict. You are also going to have see the development, I am also going to see the development, win-win situation. And international rules, norms, organization helps. See, if you have a strong international rules, norms, and if all the countries obey it, it helps to build trust, and it gives that a stability and security. Their idealism talks about war gives you the security, military strength gives you the security, but here it is the cooperation, respect to the international rules, norms, organization. This is going to give the stability and security. So this is the difference between idealism and liberalism. And again, it says that when there it is power comes above the morality, but here in the liberalism, morality comes above the power. Moral values are important. Moral consideration and ethical conduct matter in foreign policy. In realism, they directly reject this concept of morality in foreign policy. They say that if moral values are included in foreign policy, it makes the state weaker. Actually, they've taken opposite stand here, and the stand here is different. Cooperation and dialogue are morally and practically superior to war. See, these are two differentiation. There, power is important, here moral values are important. These two theories, of course, even if you look at the real life situation, most of the countries support, go through with this idealism, sorry, what is that, realism, and few of the countries, they stand for a liberalism. Even in the at the present time also, international scenario, the countries have been bifurcated on these lines. And see, there is one more branch, idealism, one more type of philosophy, idealism, and this is a branch of liberalism. Again, liberalism says that morality is above the power. So moral values are more important than the power. This is what it says. Idealism is one of the branches of liberalism. It means that this idealism is also going to subscribe this particular idea, this particular philosophy. Idealism stresses states should actively pursue moral goals and behave ethically in international affairs. And what are the main beliefs of idealism? What is immoral at personal level, at individual level, it is immoral at state level. In my personal level, if I think that being dishonest, it is not, it is immoral. Being non-integrity in my conduct, that is immoral. See, whatever in my personal belief system, whatever I think immoral, the same thing applies to the international relationship also. Even at the international level, interpersonal countries relationship focus on these things, implement the same thing at international level also. Dishonesty, violence, deception, again these things should be avoided in a foreign policy. And peace, justice, human rights, cooperation should be the guiding factor for international behavior. So again, one is realism, and another school of thought is liberalism, and one among the branch of liberalism is idealism. So this gives the directions whether you have to inculcate moral values, ethical consideration, the moral guidelines in the conduct. Based on these, which one you follow, based on that your moral values, moral considerations can be seen at the national level, international level. Now we are talking about ethics. Now ethics are the guidelines, and where should, how exactly the guidelines should be, and what should be the source. Now I am telling you to go through with make some rules for international relationship, and these rules should have moral values, ethical values. Then from where exactly you derive these things? One thing you can derive out of your the if you look at the idealism, it says that what is immoral in your personal life, the same thing is immoral in your personal international life, affairs also. This is one source. Let's talk about these kind of source. From these source you can come up with the ethics for international relationship. So let's talk about this particular source from where we can derive these ethical consideration. See, you want to make a document. This document contains all moral values required for international relationship. Now, where exactly you are going to get inspired from? You see, if you want to add some of the integrity, honesty, harmony, all these things you want to add in the moral values of international relationship, there should be some source where exactly you are going to get this information. The source we are going to talk about. First, we talked about in this thing idealism, personal level, whatever the moral values I think, I prefer the same thing for international relationship also. This is one source. And the next source is that just war theory. Just war theory we talked about in the moral philosophy classes, medieval philosophies there. Saint Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, they talked about this moral war theory, sorry, just war theory. Just war theory is that conflict has to be avoided as much as possible. See, you get into a war only to protect yourself, not to attack other people. This is what the just war theory talks about. See, war is inevitable at certain circumstances. See, if you are going to a war, and if the consequences of this war is more positive than negative, you can go for a war. And if you want to, if you are going to a war to protect yourself, you can go for a war. These are considered as a just war, because there is a reason, moral reason behind going to a war. And just war theory talks about all these aspects, and the moral philosophies discussed by just war theory, this becomes one of the sources for international relationship, ethics in international relationship. It talks about, just war theory talks about taking human life is morally wrong, but you don't have any option here. You have to protect yourself only in those situations. And war can be declared only from the legitimate authority by elected government, only they have to declare a war. These kind of restrictions, these kind of regulations are there. I mean to say that this just war theory, it has given a framework what to do and what not to do with respect to war. It has given certain moral values also. Now take these moral values with respect to international relationship, ethics in international relationship, to eliminate conflicts, to eliminate confrontation. And states have a duty to defend their citizens and uphold justice. So if you are going to a war, the reason is you want to uphold the justice, and this justice is one among the aspects of moral values in international relationship. And sometimes protecting innocent life, moral values require use of force. I want to protect some of the moral values, morality in society, so I have no other option, I have to use the choice. So these are all these are all mentioned by just war theory. So we are deriving our content from just war theory. So war is always morally problematic, but in rare circumstances it may be morally permissible to as a lesser evil. And a just war is not good, it only less harmful than injustice to seek it prevent. Ultimately what I'm trying to say is, what is the source? Just war theory. In just war theory we have talked about justice, we have talked about uh, protecting oneself, we are talking about lesser evil. So all these things becomes values of ethics in international relationship. And the second source is international charter, that is United Nations charter. This charter talks about moral and legal foundations of international relationship. Again, this becomes another source of ethics in international relationship. And it talks about code of ethics for present and future global conduct, code of ethics for every country, that how exactly what are the ethical values you should inculcate in the conduct, in the international conduct, that is there. And even if you look at the preamble of this United Nations charter, it focus on both ends and means. Both ends and means are focused in the United Nations charter, and it means that this guide the member state regarding what is moral and what is immoral. This has become another source in source for ethics in international relationship. And if you go through with the charter, it mainly aims to prevent war. Even just war theory also aims at prevent war only. By preventing war, what exactly it is focusing on? To save future generation from suffering caused by a war. And this charter, it aims to reaffirm protecting human rights. So protecting human right, it puts that faith in fundamental human rights, and it puts that faith in dignity and worth of human person. It puts that faith on a equality concept, that equal rights for men and women of whether the big nation or a small nation. So ultimately charter, it aims for prevention of war, it aims for human rights, it upholds justice and international laws, and it promotes social and economic progress. So these have become sources for ethics in international relations. The first source, the just war theory. The second source, it is United Nations charter. And see, whatever we have talked about United Nations charter, the social progress, uphold justice, prevent war, reaffirm human rights. To achieve all these things, the charter commits nation what exactly you need to focus on, what exactly you have to follow: to practice tolerance and peaceful existence. To achieve this, whatever we have talked about, justice, all these things, we need to focus on certain things: tolerance, peaceful coexistence. We need to work for a collective security, and we have to restrict the use of force whenever it is necessary. Only in at extreme necessity only we have to use a force, and to use international institutions for development. So these are some of the sources here. So first source, just war theory. Second source, United Nations charter. See, whatever the reason I am adding all these things, that so that you learn these terminologies, you can use these terminologies in your answers. Even though I know that these are confusing, but remember that you can these term: collective security, peaceful coexistence, and tolerance, all these things. International institution, they promote economic and social advancement through international cooperation. See, these things you can use it, these kind of sentences, these kind of terminologies, you can use it in an answer. This is going to enhance your presentation in the in the examination. So there are predominantly two sources: just war theory and the United Nations charter, because they completes they gives talks about so many aspects within the United Nations charter. Only there's so many aspects have been covered, and even within just war theory only, so many aspects. In general, what exactly they're talking about? They're talking about justice, they're talking about harmony, they're talking about peace, they are talking about socio-economic development of every country, and inclusivity, tolerance. All these aspects, all these moral values are discussed in just war theory and United Nations chart. Now, let's see the role of India, how exactly India is promoting ethical international relationship. So what are the steps taken by India with respect to promote ethics in international relationship? So what is the contribution of India to it? The first is historical role. Let's see the historical role. What exactly? Initially, it was the League of Nations. After the First World War, there was a League of Nations to maintain that international coordination, and it failed, and it led to the World War II. After it became United Nations organization, and even in League of Nations, it was a British time at that point of time. Still, India gave that contribution. India was one among the members, and even for the United Nations, India was the founding members of one among the founding members of United Nations organization. So, in turn, India wanted to eliminate these conflicts. So that too in a moral way. So India upheld these moral values. Why did it upheld moral values? To eliminate conflicts. So historical role, League of Nations and the United Nations organization. India is a founding member of United Nations, reflecting its commitment to multilateralism, peace and cooperation. Right. First role, first contribution. Second contribution is that if you look at the Indian Constitution and India's foreign policy, it is based on moral values. It is based on ethical consideration. Let's see the ethical consideration, moral values mentioned in Indian Constitution. If you look at the directive principles of state policy and fundamental rights, we talk about coordination, cooperation at international level. Let's talk about Article 51. Article 51, DPSP, it talks about promotion of international peace and security. And if you go through in detail with respect to this particular article, it talks about promote international peace and security. It talks about maintaining just and honorable relations between nations. It talks about respect for international law and treaty obligation. It talks about settlement of international dispute through peaceful means such as negotiations, mediation, arbitration, settlement. In turn, Article 51 is ensuring moral conduct. If there are some kind of misunderstandings between two countries, it is talking about this moral conduct. The constitution itself is talking about it. So this is DPSP. And even fundamental duties also talking about moral conduct, ethical considerations of international relationship. And see, this article 51 reflects India's belief in peaceful coexistence, rule of law in international affairs, and moral restraint in use of power, right? Now, Article 51A, it is 51A is with respect to fundamental duties, and 51A reflects the ethical dimension of citizenship and including respect for constitution, fundamental duties. My duty is to respect the constitution, and my duty is to respect the national unity. These two are fine. And again, if you look at it, the moral values of at for ethics in international relationship, we can derive here. It talks about human dignity. This human dignity, this comes under the ethics in international relationship, harmony and fraternity. See, this is a contribution from Indian side. Indian constitution itself is contributing to the ethics in international relationship, and it gives effect to article 29 subclause 1 of unit. See, whatever all these things are that we talked about, 15 article 51, 51A, all these things are mentioned in universal declaration of human rights. It emphasizes the aspects of duty of individual to the company, the sorry community. The same thing we can see in Indian constitutions also. The international law, United Nations law, United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, those aspects are inculcated or included in the Indian constitution also. It means that India is also contributing legally. It is contributing to the word cooperation. It is contributing values to the international relationship. Then the third aspect, first historical contribution, historical role, and then we talked about in the constitution itself there are some ethical values, moral values are enforced, and the third, ethical principles underlying India's global role. At this point of time, the way India is conducting its relationship, peaceful coexistence, India works on the principle of Panchashil. Panchashil is signed with China, but still India focus on this idea of peaceful coexistence. It's support this idea of non-alignment, strategic autonomy. It means that you take the decision, you are not influenced by other country, and respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity of my own country and other countries, neighboring countries also. It talks about dialogue over the conflict. See, dialogue, it's nothing but these are the ethical concepts. It talks about global justice, equity, and human dignity. So these are the ethical principles underlying India's conduct at the global level, India's ethical behavior at the global level. This is the third way India's contribution to international ethics in international relationship. And the fourth is very important, non-alignment policy. This was during the Nehru period. And even now also the extension of this non-alignment policy is very much visible in Indian foreign policy. See, non-alignment helped India to preserve political independence and the strategic autonomy. And it has historic, see, non-alignment itself is that you don't want to, there are two, Soviet Union and American grouping, two grouping. You don't want to join this group or that group. The reason is that you want to maintain your strategic autonomy, or else when you start joining these kind of groups, you are strengthening these kind of groupings. When there is a strengthening of groupings, you are, it will lead to the conflict, it will lead to the war, it will lead to the some kind of injustice at the international level. So India wants to get rid of this. So that is the reason it is one among the founding members of this policy of non-alignment movement. And Indian civilization emphasize harmony and coexistence in external relationship. Even if you look at the, even before India's historical ancient, whether it's ancient history, medieval history, India, it's very rare that Indian kings, they went there and they attacked and they captured other land. There are instances, but it is comparatively extremely less. They never colonized another geographical location. And non-alignment reflected India's ethical and cultural values in foreign policy. Non-alignment helped create neutral peace zone between rival blocs. It enabled India and other non-aligned countries to act as a mediator and reduce tensions. Thus, on the whole, non-alignment was a strategic, moral, and practical policy choice for India. So these are India's contribution. So what exactly we talked about in this particular discussion? First, it is ethics in international relationships. Initially, we talked about why do we need ethics in international relationships. There are issues like border, all these issues, river water disputes, so we need that. And next, we talked about role of values in international relationship and what are the challenges there. All these things we talked about it. Then we talked about two theories, realism and idealism, and sorry, realism and liberalism. Idealism is one among the subset of idealism. Then we talked about sources from where exactly we are deriving ethics in international relationship, just war theory, United Nations Charter. And then we talked about role of India in promoting ethical international relationship, historic role, constitutional, and then ethical principles on Indian conduct, and then non-alignment. This covers this particular topic. And in the next video we are going to talk about ethical issues in international funding, international trade and businesses. And after that, one more video with respect to corporate governance, that is going to cover the sixth unit, ethics in public administration. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good time. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and please leave a comment also. It helps me to get a better reach, because I'm spending a lot of time here. It is simple thing, I'm requesting you guys to leave a comment or a like a video, but to give that the support from your side. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.